Hello, good people, and welcome to the Amateur Hour. My name's Justin,
My name's Tyler.
I'm the one called Junior.
and today's sponsors are EBXYA and Adam Stone. So we are back for another following episode. This would be releasing either Christmas Day or this Christmas weekend. So Merry Christmas to all of you individuals out there. I hope you got a very special gift, and I hope all of your Christmases went well. That everyone stood nice and healthy, social distance, at least properly, right? And I hope, you guys got the gifts that you wanted, and I hope that you also had the family gathering that you wanted, with a certain amount of people, of course. But with that said, I think it was worth explaining as to why I was uploading so late, why we were essentially uploading so late. Well, I normally edit the podcasts, so I do want to send out an apology in advance. I had a lot of schoolwork, so end of semester things. I mean, I'm sure this is something that Austie and Junior over here don't have to worry about. But, I had to finish up stuff for my college semester. I'm towards the end. I'm heading into senior territory for my college. So I had to make sure I focus and keep that honor roll, of which I did. So it's fantastic. But with that said, I mean, college, right? Do you guys miss it? I know Junior over here's graduated. Austin's graduated.
No, I can't say I miss it.
Yeah, well, I miss the people. I don't miss all the schoolwork, that's for sure.
Now, do you guys feel like, besides the classes that were made for your degree, do you feel like you're using any others? Any of the other like skills that college kind of forces you to take, like their history and like, how you're required those particular certain amount of credits.
The gen eds.
Yeah, the gen eds.
Education. Yeah, I can't say I've had like a history course. I did take a lot of psychology classes, and I hated those. Those seemed kind of pointless to me.
Really?
It's like, yeah, I get it. You question everything.
I mean, I thought I'd taken a few psychology courses and I thought it was fun. I don't know. Maybe that's just the psychology in me, because my mother is studying psychology as well.
I think it depends on the teacher a lot. Psychology can be devil if you have a really bad teacher.
Yeah, I can. I had a really fun, relaxing teacher. So I think that's what made it. Like, to put in perspective, I believe I received, it was either a high B or a low A in that class. And I didn't study for anything. I just literally would show up for the class and just listen. And I retained a lot of information, and I kind of use some of the tactics today when it comes to psychology. But
I just always felt like the lessons were the same lesson, just wrapped a different way.
you know what? That
Because
kind of... Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying it's always mainly about counterpoints or like a counter argument or something. So like you're just constantly arguing against a topic or an idea you come up with, and it's like, yeah, man, I get it.
Right? That reminds me of like ethics. I don't know if you've ever taken like an ethics class. But
Yeah, I think I had to.
yeah, my professor, a lot of times she would make us do a lot of like what you're saying, like counterpoints, like where we have to say, right, not just what's right or wrong, but like we had to play devil's advocate every once in a while. And I thought that was interesting-ish, but I don't know, it didn't really do it for me. Yeah, so like for me, I'm surprised you didn't have any history courses that you were required. I have like math, English, history, and even sciences required for me. So that's kind of sad. I feel like that's like high school stuff, you know? You get into high school, you learn all the same subjects, and then that's, I don't know. I guess they're basic necessities, but I don't see how. I don't think in the real world, besides like math and certain aspects of math that I'll be using. Um, yeah, I don't know. So how do you feel about all that, Austin? Do you feel like your gen eds helped you now in your actual career?
Well, I think the whole point of gen eds is just to help you narrow down what you eventually want to study. Like when I got to college, I had no clue what I was going to study. I was like, maybe do history, maybe I'll do accounting. At one point, I was like, hey, maybe I'll be an overachiever. Maybe I'll be a doctor. And like slowly but surely, I weeded all of the other options out besides an accountant just by I took chemistry my second semester and I wanted to kill myself. Took I took some history classes and they were fun, and it was neck and neck for a while, but I was like, it's just when you live in the state I live in, with history degrees really don't do that great in the financial department, and I liked it just as much as I liked accounting, so that's how I ended up doing accounting. But in terms of using the stuff I learned, I would say I don't necessarily use them specifically, but the skills I obtained while taking those classes I use on a regular basis. Just trying to be well-rounded overall is basically what I learned from all those gen eds.
I mean, that's fairly interesting. I mean, Junior, did you know going into college what you wanted to study?
Well, a quick correction. I was speaking about philosophy and not psychology. Psychology is decent. I don't know. The two P's and the two P's and G or something.
Yeah, that's way off. I was like, when I was trying to think about, I was like, I know they teach you to question some stuff, but like, I don't know. I was like, that's more ethics or something.
Yeah, I don't know why. Then like skipped in my head. But I don't know. I just knew I was going to do some sort of engineering. But oh man, what is in my throat? But yeah, I knew it was going to be some sort of engineering. I originally did mechanical, but one of the first year courses is just kind of like an all-arounder class, and we did some coding with the Lego Mindstorm, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So then I just ended up doing electrical. Had I known electrical engineering and computer engineering were so like tightly wound in at Purdue Northwest, I could have double majored easily. But
really,
that's another story. Yeah, I think I'm like 6 credits away or something.
No, dude.
Dude, you should just go and take
I
a couple
kind
classes.
of, yeah.
Well, the thing is, they're starting to change it a lot more now. So courses are changing names. The like plan of study is changing a little bit. So I feel like it might be adding up now at this point. But I wasted my time with like the honors college there, and I was just like, damn it. That's where I had a bunch of philosophy classes, was for the honors college, because you have to take like a couple, like maybe 4 courses for that throughout your time at Purdue. And then you had to like participate in different things to get like just different honors college credits. And it's just like, I should have focused on double majoring than trying to be in honors college.
You know what always confused me is, I don't know if it's the same at your guys' college, but at my college, if you got an honors scholarship, like they had a specific scholarship, you had to take harder classes for your gen eds. Like they made you take harder classes that were like basically double the work. And to me, that makes no sense. Why would you make it harder for somebody if they did better in high school? Like, what? Especially for gen eds, why does they need harder gen eds? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't
Gotta
know.
challenge that brain, man.
Yeah, I was like, maybe to try and like deepen your knowledge, so to speak.
Yeah,
I
I guess, but like that's just I don't know. Like I'm not trying to do really good in college just for the or high school just for them to be like, yo, we're gonna make it twice as hard for you in college now because you're that good.
I mean, I agree with the sentiment though. Like, I mean, see here's the thing. I got lucky, right? Because in high school, I was a C student, so like, I didn't have to
Mhm.
really worry about having to take, I guess, essentially harder classes. I think for me, because a lot of times, at least in mine in juniors high school, it was just like, I don't know, I didn't feel like I learned anything, if I'm being honest. And not just because, like, right, like I was the C student, that didn't mean I didn't necessarily pay attention. I don't know, we just didn't have professors that really, or teachers that really pushed thought or tried to have fun while teaching you. It was just a lot, it was too repetitive for me. So I didn't really learn much. And when things become repetitive and they're fairly simple, like my brain, it'll start to just shut off. Like, so I was taking a children's literature class and I was becoming quite good at it. I mean, I know I ended with a higher B, but like, so when I was taking that class, I was starting to understand the concept of the class and like how would you say, the how we were to analyze children's books and stuff. And I started, I don't know, I started really understanding it, and like it was sort of the same format when it came to like homework assignments and essays that we had to write. And it was kind of, it sucked because I was then starting to get bored of it. And when I get bored of classes, like then that's where we have a problem with a grade, because then it's like I have a lack of motivation to do the class because for me it's too easy and pointless. Like, it's weird. My brain is super weird. Um, but that's how I was in like high school, and I still am like that in college. I don't know. Were you guys ever like that?
If I had for me to get interest in a class, I had to be challenged a little bit because I mean when I was in high school, uh, honestly the classes I remember the most were classes that either I struggled in at first and realized I couldn't just show up to school and just like BS my way through classes. I would remember those more, and the classes that were taught by like the basketball or baseball coaches, just because they were so relaxed and funny and like have a lot of fun in there. But for me, like when I got to college, especially if the class wasn't, if I didn't have like an oh, oh shit moment in like the first couple weeks of the semester where I was like, wait a minute, I need to actually pay attention to this stuff. I can't just like there was a class, for example, I took business law 1, and that was a class where I like don't remember really anything at all from it, because it was like I would just show up, take the test, and it was like common sense, like, oh, you can't steal somebody's idea and say it's your own. Like, that's pretty basic stuff. If a class challenged me, I remember a whole lot more from it, and I would like actually try. Um, I agree with you. I think if you have a little bit of a challenge, it doesn't have to go too crazy. But if they challenge you just a little bit, I think you just remember 3-5 times more.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I could agree with that. I want to say the courses that were a little more challenging were typically stressful, but I'm like, oh, you know what, I got something out of that. But then besides that, the I had some simple courses that were still pretty fun because we were messing with like microcontrollers and all that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
The challenging
actually,
and the classes that are fun.
I remember that I did want to do accounting at first also, but then I think my mom was like, "Nah, you're gonna do engineering." So then that's when I kind of was like, "Ah, fine. It's kind of cool."
Hey, man. Hey, mothers know though, right? Like they know what you're good at, and they know what you're is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a mother's intuition, right? Like they know you. Like my mother, for me, like she knew I was good at business, and she's like, "Hey, like when I was taking my business courses at uh, was it Hanover, which is, I mean, they weren't too difficult, right? Like now that kind of what Austin was saying earlier when they were taught by coaches and stuff, wasn't ours taught by like the coach of our football team? Because we both had Mr. Harrison, right? Me and
Yeah.
you? Yeah. So like in those were really a lot of the business classes. Him and Miss Demon were the business classes that I was really introduced to. And those were actually the highest grades that I was receiving at the time, like it were A and B classes. And it was actually because I found a lot of the stuff interesting for me. It was like I don't know. So then my mother kind of seen that I'd taken a liking to it, and she's like, "Well, you probably you like business, don't you?" And I was like, "I think." And sure enough, it then factored into business, and then became business and media, and then it was like, all right, well, I need to narrow this down, and I started taking an interest to the creation of films and how films were created, and I kind of wanted to be a part of that and in charge of that in some sort of magnitude. And I got lucky because then I found out what a producer was and what a creative producer was. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do. It was like a mixture of business and being creative at the same time, and working with others. Like that's one of the biggest parts about me is like I like to work cooperatively to complete something, whether it's a video game or even real life. I like working together.
Mm.
And then that's where my love for producing came from. And now we're this far. Junior, though, I could really sympathize with that double major. So, like right now for me, I could have had. So before I transferred over to Columbia College Chicago, I was going to community college by the name of Ivy Tech. And in that college, I was actually 4 classes away from getting my associates in business administration. And then I was accepted into Columbia, and I was like, well, screw this. I don't want, I'm out. I want Columbia. I want my dream college. Right when I did that, then I also was 2 classes away from finishing my voiceover minor, of which I can't finish it, unfortunately, because I have to, in order to graduate on time next year, I can't add any more classes. So that kind of sucked. But what can you do, right? I mean, I suggest, Junior, if you could have the chance, still look into it and try and finish some 6 classes. I mean, hey, just take 1 or 2 in the summer or something.
It's Purdue Northwest, so it's not like there's not too many courses offered during the summer. I would, but yeah,
Really?
it's a little harder.
That
They
sucks.
kind of have their set times. Like if they're more of like sophomore level classes, they tend to be around like 9, and then as it progresses, they actually get later in the day. But yeah, I think a couple of them are sophomore-ish classes, and then the other ones kind of get later towards the day. But yeah, it kind of definitely ruins the schedule a little bit.
Mm. I mean, at least you are in your career, right? So, I mean, hey, you know what? Really, there's not too much complaining. And you did really good. Did you go into the honor society, Junior, or like did you graduate with the sash and everything?
I had the ropes.
No, the chords.
Yeah, the chords. Yeah, I had those. I didn't finish honors college. You need to do like a thesis, all that. I was like, I don't really feel like doing that. I don't like writing papers. Um,
You
let's
can have hard
see.
on the honors kids.
Yeah. Well,
Um, but yeah, I think that was. I don't. I think there was like a academic notoriety and then like a distinguished one. And I want to say I wasn't distinguished, but I was like the step below that.
yeah, because I could imagine you were getting some fairly good grades. Like I remember um, how dedicated you were to school. You'd be like, yeah, I can't really do much, guys. Can't really hang out, whatever. I got to college. I'm like, yeah, it's understandable. Like, I was the same way to an extent. So I mean, hey, I mean that's wonderful to hear that you've had that. I'm trying to get my honors cord and honor sash, but I have to talk with my guidance counselor and see pretty soon. So I got to figure that out. What about you, Austie? Did you? Because I know at least I'm under the assumption that you've had some solid grades.
I graduated with is it cum laude or whatever? It's summa cum laude. I graduated with like the second highest GPA honors you can get. I I got I had chords. I was like something. I graduated with some kind of honors for having like a certain scholarship. Um, but I did not. I didn't go too crazy. I did a lot while I was in college. I was in a fraternity, and there was a lot going on with that.
Did they put stuff up your butt, man?
Did not. They did not put anything in my rear. Thankfully, if they had tried to do that, I would not have been in a fraternity. That's for dang sure.
That's what I don't
Um,
get. How can someone join a frat and want to be in it so bad that they'll just let themselves be hazed? Like I've
yeah,
heard
Yeah.
stories about how the newbies in this one frat, like the senior people will turn off all the lights, bump some music, and just like whoop their asses. And it's like, why would you want to be a part of that?
I mean, if you really want to get into talking about it, I can tell you all about my experience. But
I mean,
uh,
I have a question too with that. Let's get into it. Junior's got a fair point, right? They do some
uh
freaky stuff. So, at least let me describe before you get into your experience. I do want to describe at least an encounter with someone from the frat life. And it makes me laugh. I don't know why. But anyway, so like I knew this girl, right? And how she got into her frat or whatever the heck they had.
Birdie.
She had to so like they crushed glass, right? And then they made the newbies crawl through the glass. And so like they
What?
were getting their what's it called? Their arms all cut up, and then they also were doing something where I think it was like they had to sleep with someone while they were drunk, and it was like
Oh
some
my
wacky stuff.
god!
And long story short, she was involved in a court case because of the illegal activities that this frat was having them do to join it. And I thought that was, and that's the sort of horror stories that I often hear from frat parties and or frat houses, essentially.
Mhm.
So tell us your experience, Asti, as uh, an honors frat boy. I want to know.
Okay, well, so first that girl. So girls go into sororities, guys go into fraternities. Sororities
Nice.
do some weird stuff. I'm not saying fraternities don't, but they I've heard about you got to sleep with somebody. There used to be a sorority on the campus that I went to. They got kicked off before I got there, but one of their things was the new girls had to sleep with one of the new guys from one of the fraternities, and that was interesting. I missed out on that one, but oh, my fraternity, we did not. I did not ever have to crawl through glass or anything like that. I mean, there was a little bit of hazing going on, but it wasn't anything that like I looked at as like so horrible that I wouldn't do it. Just like we had to do. We had like a book that we had to like. It was the history of our fraternity and just a bunch of random information that they wanted us to know. And so we would have like a chapter each week, and we're on like a 16-week program or something like that. So we would have to learn that chapter. Then Sunday we'd meet up with, called it our Kappa. It was our new member education leader, and we would he would quiz us on it. You get a question wrong, you have to do some form of punishment. So it was like you had to do 20 push-ups or something like that. We also, if like made a rule for us, like if couldn't miss class, so they would ask at the beginning how many people miss class, how many people have like a C or below in a class, stuff like that. And however many hands were raised, we would like exercises for that. Like one time we had a really bad week and we had to like do over 210 or 220 push-ups. That was rough. But there was nothing like, I mean, you were talking about people turning off the lights, playing music, and whipping asses. I definitely did not get my ass whooped in the dark, but I did. One of the things we did do is they would turn off the lights. We had blindfolds or called them our specs. So we couldn't see. They would turn off the lights and they would play music that was like kind of centered around like the whole theme of the night. Because every Wednesday we would have they called it like a ritual night, where it was like we would go through like form of like ritual thing that would teach us something that was important. Like one of them was we would get our big bro a week prior, and then that Wednesday it would be all about like relying on our big bro and also understanding that we're a direct reflection on our big bro and our fraternity and stuff like that. So it wasn't like you could find meanings behind it. It wasn't stupid stuff like we're going to make you crawl through glass just because we want you to crawl through glass. Like that's just stupid. But I mean, we ended up getting in trouble and then even more trouble, and we got kicked off campus my last year in college. But I mean, there was nothing that I could think of that really was like, oh, so bad. Some kids had to do push-ups in the river in wintertime, and that's what got us in trouble. But I'm trying to think or anything. Oh, there was one time that somebody got whipped with a belt because they were just so bad. They just got whipped with a belt, but that was their own fault. It was their own fault. They made a stupid comment about how he was bored with the punishments we were getting. So they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll create a new one for you," and they whipped him with a belt.
So they gave him
not in the rear, right in the back.
What the freak?
Yeah.
Sounds like my mother's punishments. Like you didn't do the laundry.
Really...
What?
I mean, in my opinion, none of what I went through was necessarily like so awful that it was like something I would ever like. Yeah, there's no way I'm doing this. It was all like exercise, push-ups, wall sits, planks, cinches, like all kinds of stuff. Like I ended up getting in good shape.
So
yeah, I was about to say you're just getting them gains, huh?
Mm-hmm. That's how I always looked at it.
Gains and pain tolerance. Hey man, at least he would come back stronger than ever because like his mother would be like, "Hey, Austin, you're gonna get the belt." He'd be like, "Ma, I
Like, I've
really
already
got it.
taken the belt.
Yeah, give it to me. Come on, I want you to do it like Joker or something."
Just it's like flexing my abs. Like, come on, do it, mom. Just hit me.
But like, what really drove you to want to join a fraternity in the first place?
Well, when I got into college, there was I didn't. None of my friends in high school went to the same college as me, so I was like kind of on my own. And there was a group of like six of us on my freshman floor. We all just like instantly clicked. We all like just became friends. And whenever I was going through freshman orientation, there was this guy. His name was Mitch, and I was a quiet kid. I was like in our freshman orientation, it's like this camp you go to, and it was like kind of like to me, I kind of felt like it was dumb at the time. Like this is kind of dumb. Like some of this stuff is just stupid. We were screaming and yelling. We had like teams and we made up chants and stuff. It was, I mean, now I'm like awesome, but before it was like this is kind of dumb. I was like a high schooler coming in. I was like, yeah, this is stupid. I'm an adult now. But he like just kind of left an impression on me, and then I found out that he was in that fraternity, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I kind of thought even beforehand, my sister was in a sorority at the same school, so she had already told me like she thought it would be a really good idea. Because meet a lot of people, make a lot of connections, and that's actually how I ended up getting the job I have now is through a connection through my fraternity. But it's mainly just all of my friends were gonna join the same fraternity, and we all just kind of like, hey, none of us want to get left behind because once you join, you move on to the fraternity floor in one of the other buildings. So it's like, and there's all kinds of other stuff that they're going to be doing that you're going to miss out on. And I was like, my roommate my freshman year was kind of weird. He would like hiss at people. So I was like, I want out. Oh, I was like, it's like, yeah, it was just a perfect storm. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going. So that's kind of what led me into it. And it's good. I mean, it ended up getting me the job I have now. I know a lot of people have bad views on fraternities, and maybe at D1 schools, it's a little more wild and some illegal stuff goes on. But I feel like for other schools, it's really, really helpful because you make connections with people. You get to meet people you wouldn't normally meet, and like older members will give you jobs, or one of the guys you are in a fraternity with, mom needs somebody to hire, and you just so happen to be good friends with that guy, so he puts in a good word for you, and you get a job.
Yeah,
So
so it's a good form of networking, essentially, as well.
yes, I
So,
mean that's the whole point of a fraternity. That's why they were made, was to network, and of course the
so,
other dumb stuff happens, but
so bonds and networking are probably then you would say the top two reasons to join a fraternity.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's good to hear. Maybe fraternities do have a bad rap, like
For sure, they do. They definitely have a bad rap. I mean, even the one I was in ended up. We were pretty compared to these things that people think they do, and the things that these D1 schools actually do. We were pretty meh. We didn't really do much of that kind of wild stuff. I mean, of course, in college fraternity there are parties and stuff, but we never did anything that would endanger somebody's life. So
yeah, no
um,
no butt whoopings in the dark or
crawling across glass. It's still
or,
like, who would do that? Who would
or
look at you
nothing
and be
up
like,
the
"Are you
butt.
stupid?" Nope, definitely not.
Junior, you still kind of have me rolling I was trying not to laugh super hard.
Somebody picked something up your butt.
But like, I mean, I just thought, I agree, right? Like, I've heard some horror stories like that. Like, what the freak?
Mhm. Yeah. I
But-
mean, there was a rumor about my fraternity that we did this thing called the elephant walk.
Oh god.
And basically what the rumor was, I'm going to tell you right now, it was not true. I would have it was that they got all of the new members naked and they all had to get in a line, and you to like keep yourself, like if you're like trying to stay in a line, like maybe in like elementary school, you would like hold the hands of the person in front of you and behind you or whatever.
Yeah.
You had to hold the elephant of the person behind you,
Oh my
and
goodness.
to get old trunk. But that was not true. That was definitely not true. I can tell you right now, Austin's not doing any of that weirdness. So,
Honestly, like, see, that sort of stuff for me sounds like some sort of frustration, if you know what I mean. It sounds like a group of guys that were frustrated in a certain sort of way. I won't be too vulgar. And we're like, you know what? Or they were closeted in some sort of way. It's like, I think that's just such a rapey thing to do. Like, that's what fraternity
weird.
sounds like to me. Very rapey. Like,
well, it's like I mean, it's very, if you're doing some like questionable stuff in that regard, like it's just like, what guy in their right mind wants to do that?
right?
Like the amount of peer pressure that has to occur for guys to do that kind of stuff, like, or I mean, maybe they like it, I guess, but
I think I would
don't
say
know.
then for a younger audience, don't be so impressionable. Be your own thinker.
Yeah.
Quit following what other people gotta say and do, and don't be. For me, I'm not much of a partier. I would say not to, but I know some people do. But keep it in perspective and understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be acting wild. I mean, if there was advice, I'm going to ask each one of you, Austin, if there was an advice you would give to someone who wants to start off in college or is in college, what is that one piece of advice you would offer?
What I would offer is meet and make friends with as many people as you can. Like, even like, I know you just said you wouldn't go to parties. For me, parties was like the opportunity you didn't, because thing is if you go to it, that doesn't mean that you have to partake in what is going on at the party. You can just go around and talk to people, and it's just as fun as if you were to go crazy. But just meeting people and getting to know people and understanding like people's backgrounds and stuff, and just making those connections makes a huge difference, because I mean, the more people you know, the better. It can't hurt to know more people. It can only help you. I mean, I guess unless you make friends with a murderer and he decides to murder you, I guess that would be bad. But but I mean, for the most part, you're doing pretty good if you just meet as many people as you can, get to know them, make an impression on them, and you'll be good.
What about you, Junior? What's one piece of advice you'd offer for someone either going to start college or is in college?
I don't know, man, because I don't know. I didn't really go out to make friends with people. I kind of just went, worked after, pretty much went to do my thing. I didn't really care about meeting people or anything. Just wanted my degree and to hop out.
Anything like towards your degree or whatever that helped you that you wish you would have known?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe don't be intimidated by the fact that, like, I know when I was in some early on classes, a lot of kids would be like, "Oh yeah, I already did C++ coding when I was in high school," or they just talk about all the different stuff they did in high school, and it's just kind of like it didn't intimidate me, but it was just kind of like, huh, they must have like a better school, went to a better school or something, got the upper hand here. But then a lot of them didn't typically end up doing better in those classes.
Oh, half those classes that people would take, like a C++ class, or like when I was in accounting classes, they would be like, "Oh yeah, I took accounting classes in high school." Bro, high school classes are nothing like college classes. These kids come in like it's gonna be a breeze, and 2 weeks in, they'd be like, "I'm failing, and I don't know why." Oh, maybe you haven't opened your book.
Yeah.
Like,
I think a lot of times people that are very pompous towards what they essentially know are probably not good at what they do. So I've been in that situation too, where you'd have people like I took business classes in high school. And when I went into college, I wasn't out claiming, "Oh, I know all this stuff." Like I'm too smart. So I went in like, what am I gonna learn? What's new? And I learned quite a bit. I think my advice towards people would be I got vices galore. I mean, come on. I think one of mine would definitely be in colleges. Don't be afraid getting into college and expecting that you have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. I would suggest, right? It's definitely important to try and figure that out before you choose a college. But even while you're in college, sometimes you're going to want to make a change. I know several people that were in college that changed midway through college and were able to transfer the credits and everything to a degree of their choice. And another, I guess, a piece of advice I'd give to college students out there is don't put too many classes on your plate if you can't handle it. Put what you can handle. If you can handle 4 classes, then I would suggest going with the 4 classes. If you can handle 5, then yeah, sure, why not? But if even 4 is too much, don't be afraid to reduce to 3. Yeah, it's going to take longer to graduate, but I think college anyway, you're supposed to retain a lot of the information that you get, as well as you're supposed to, if you want to do good, right? I think you got to give yourself that chance to do good. Don't overload yourself. And then my final piece of advice would probably be see, because Asti already covered networking, and I agree with that piece of advice. Um, I'd probably say don't graduate expecting you're going to know everything too. I think people graduate with this expectation that they're like, okay, well, I'm going to remember everything. And I'm going to I'm going to get into my career and, not be afraid. But that's not too much the case. I talked to a lot of industry professionals, producers working on high-end films and crazy films, and a lot of them say that they've graduated, but they didn't know what they were doing. Like, they were freaked out because there's no experience like, real-world experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
completely agree.
But
That's how I was. I mean,
yeah.
whenever I started, I had to. When you graduate, you have a basic knowledge of what your field is about, and that's pretty much it. I mean, college, to me, in my opinion, I think it's not necessarily about what you learn about your classes that will decide whether you're good or not at what you do. It's just learning the skills to help yourself try to retain information, because you're not going to retain everything that you learned in college. But if you get those skills and you build all these skills that you need, working hard and all that stuff, once you get your job, then you learn what you're actually doing, and you'll have the skills already in place. Working hard, not procrastinating on your work, stuff like that. That's what college is about. I think a lot of times people that once you're done with college, like you said, that you're just going to know everything about your field, and you're going to just be the greatest person ever at it, and you're just going to go in and you should make as much money as some guy that doesn't have a degree in it who's been working there for 15 years. It's like, no, not how it works. There's nothing like learning the job. There's no substitute for learning the job than actually doing it.
Yeah, I feel like college is more like showing that you could learn that stuff because you're gonna hop into that field. So at least you have this, this degree showing like, yeah, I'm able to learn this relevant information, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I had one more while you were talking, Justin. I thought of one more piece of advice that really helped me is people don't realize it, but you don't have to take your gen eds like all at once. I know a lot of kids make the mistake of doing that.
Yep.
What I would highly recommend is spreading them out throughout all however many years. The normal is 4, but spread them out through those 4 years, because what I ended up doing and really helped me a lot in terms of my GPA and allowed me to also have fun while graduating on time was just I would take like 2 hard classes.
Yep.
And then like 3 or 4 classes that were like easy to medium. And then what ended up happening is I ran out of hard classes. And so my senior year was like 1 hard class or super duper easy classes for both semesters. So I could like go out and have fun. And like that also, I mean, it allows you to like go out and you can still do stuff. You can still have fun. You can still hang out with friends. You can still have a normal life while also going to college. And it also keeps you from stressing to the point where you make yourself sick too.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I've seen a lot of people who just save all of their like hard core classes or gen ed classes as well, and just take them all in one semester. I'm like, what are you doing? Trying to kill yourself? Like, just freaking. I do the same way where I do too hard, too easy. Like it would be something like that, or like you're saying. So I agree with that piece of advice as well. That's a very good advice. And it's also good advice, Junior. I mean, take it from these guys, right? They're graduated, they're in their field. Yeah, I think that was very informative.
Yeah, let me ask you one more question, Justin. So we were kind of commuters with school. Do you feel like you would have did better if you actually went away?
No. I think commuting, honestly, to me, didn't really have it's not too big of an issue. Like, yeah, it's about 2 to 4 hours of wasted time, essentially. But I think, I don't know, it wasn't too bad for me because, like, right, like I get in my car, I drive to the train station, take the train all the way to school, and then I have to walk to my classes. I think if I was like in the dorms, it wouldn't have really changed much. I think what it would have been is like, wow, like I get to experience this freedom and stuff like that, and get to hang out with and I don't know, you have this weird sort of, probably sense of freedom, but at the end of the day, I don't think it would have really changed my.
Well, you're also in Chicago, but say you were in maybe 3 hours away.
Yeah, well, then that I would say probably I would suggest being on campus if you could, because that's 3 hours of like study time or homework time.
But I'm saying as far as like, you don't think that would have pushed you to do a little bit better? Because for me, I feel like if I actually did go away to college, I probably would have been more focused on my work and not have slacked as much as I did.
Well, it could be like 50-50. I mean, for me, what pushes me to try and do really good in college is, I mean, the factor that, right, financially, currently not in the best place. We're what is known as working poor. And that, and given the factor of my life always having some sort of understanding that we've always been poor and not medium class or even close to wealthy has been something that actually had driven me to always try in college. So that's why I get like A's and B's, is because like I understand the gravity of my education and having to study. So that's why if it was close or far, because even when I was in Ivy Tech, that was like even closer than Chicago. Um, I was still pulling out the same grades. I don't know. I guess for some people that could be the case, though.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I did my best to stay, uh, try to stay straight A's, but if a B crept in there, I wasn't too mad about it. But I
I
don't know. I
mean,
think if I really went away and like was in my element, I probably could have did a lot better. Maybe
hey, you're
got
slacking
distinguished
off
cores.
though. You're slacking off is 1B. Like, come on, you'd still do pretty good. I mean,
I think I was just naturally a good test taker, so I think that helps.
you were always also you have a good, I think, memory
Skill.
for the most part as well, right? Like,
Oh, it's gone to shit recently, but yeah, I did have a good memory.
I feel the exact same way. I had a really good memory, and it's just slowly falling apart.
sometimes with college and what like education in general can be very measured by is actually your memory more than anything else, because the more you can retain, the better, right? Like, because you can remember like how to solve certain equations. I think for me, my issue is like, especially when it comes to math, it's hard for me to retain. Like, I legit can learn something, and then the next day I'll forget what I learned. Like for math, it's just very difficult for me to retain. But like uh, business, for example, I will preface this by saying I don't ever take notes in college nor study. Which is, I would probably be straight A's if I pushed myself enough to do that. Um, but not to say that I'm not trying. It's just that pushing myself to do that, sometimes putting that sort of pressure on myself adds too much stress, and I actually end up doing a lot worse than what I would think. Like if I sit down and I study for a test and I try to memorize everything, there is no way I will pass that test. I will end up freaking out and failing the test. But now, like, if I just, I don't know. So if I don't put that pressure on myself, I end up retaining the information a little bit more. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it, but that's just how I am. Where was that even going? I'm sorry.
Um, well, if once while you gather your thoughts, I am a huge advocate for like if you can go to a dorm like dorms or whatever, go away. I think it's a really good idea because you learn so many life skills like how to be a normal human being and not go absolutely nuts. Like you learn what freedom is and the bounds of it, and also like you I think it's better to like have that freedom than go wild and realize like the ramifications like 1 year in college compared to not ever getting out until after college, moving out of your parents' house or whatever. And then your first time being out on your own, you're in your apartment and you're like not paying your rent and you just tank your credit score and stuff like that. I think that it's a good like obviously not doing good a semester or a year in college will hurt your GPA and stuff, but like it's not the end of the world. Whereas like not paying all of your bills your first year out of college, like and living on your own, that will like come back to bite you 10 times harder. So it's
Yeah.
also like you just learn how to like, I mean, you learn how to cook, you learn how to be a clean person if you're not already clean enough for your own liking. You learn that people aren't going to be as clean as you or are gonna get mad because you're as dirty as you are too. Like it teaches you a lot of things that like you need for later on whenever you're living on your own or living with your girlfriend, fiance, significant other, or whatever. I think it teaches you a whole lot.
I can agree with that. I think too it's based on the certain characters, right? I think there are going to be people out there that could probably aren't as responsible, right, and will just act all willy nilly. But no, I agree with your piece of advice, and I hope these advices help people that are currently in college or are gonna go to college or are starting off college, ending college as well. But with that said, we're 20 minutes over time. So we're going to throw this over to a quick break. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. So enjoy. I often find myself wondering, what's next? What lies ahead? Where do I go? How far will I go? We often think about tomorrow. But what's the point? What's the point of not looking at what we have in front of us? Why not look to the present and be grateful? Why do you run from today? What difference does it make if everything you have today can be gone tomorrow? So I urge you, live for today. Search EBXYA on Amazon today to get all of your XLR cable needs. Link in the description. And we're back from that word from our sponsors. I hope you guys enjoyed. As usual, guys, all of the freaking sponsors are linked in the description. And if I were you, I would check them out. We have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about around the next episodes in regards to our sponsors. So that's going to be fun. Keep an ear out. But with that said, please follow us on all of our platforms: SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, of course. Follow us, subscribe to us if you're on YouTube, and hit that notification bell because, I want to have our own URL. We need 100 subscribers to do so, and we know you guys are listening, all right? We got 300-something listeners that are continuously coming back pretty often. So it's like, hit that subscribe button. It's free. You can't go wrong. And also follow us over on our social media. That link is also going to be in the description. It's as simple as you click description, the link tree is right there, and it takes you to all of our available platforms, including our social media. But with that said, let's get right into topics because there's something very interesting that we kind of have to get into. Right? Last episode, I had kind of a rant with my review on Cyberpunk. It was a bit of a rant. I was disappointed. Well, they're under a lot more fire. CD Projekt Red has recently offered refunds for the game Cyberpunk 2077 for all available platforms, both PC, Xbox, and PS4. Those especially, just because of all of the absolute the bug fest that the game has been recently, and the unfortunate resolutions that is, and just the poor performance for the Xbox One and PS4. So they're offering those refunds. So that's very big. And in that it gets deeper than that. In that statement that they released, they also stated that they should have done a better job sending out review copies for the Xbox One and PS4, which kind of gets into my next point here, and was very sad / shady of CD Projekt Red to do. Was they did not give any of these reviewers a copy on Xbox One or PS4. They literally just gave them PC because they knew PC worked the best. And I think that's very unfortunate. That's something that they shouldn't have done. I find that kind of bit slimy to do. They should have given their given them review copies for consoles because, listen, I know you're trying to sell a game, but if you know it's that bad, then you shouldn't even release it on Xbox One or PS4. But with that said, too, people have been gathering. So one of my points last time was there was a lot of things that they didn't add in the video game. And there's a Reddit page of which I'm going to link in the in the description down below so you guys can look at this with me. But there's a Reddit page that literally has a list of everything CD Red promised would be in the game, but that they didn't put in the game or they failed to do. So I'm going to read some of these things off. And this is a very long list, so I won't go through all of it. But like one of the features that they promised was going to be in the game. Oh, by the way, the Reddit page also links to other articles of them talking about these certain features. I also put it in the notes if you guys want to check that out as well. So one of the features that were promised was amazing AI that directs enemies during combat/patrol, but also citizen NPCs' daily life. So it was supposed to be like a lot of better integration. That was one of the things that I was describing last time was that the NPCs were promised to be these very interactable sort of people, and it was supposed to feel very much alive when in reality the game felt kind of dead and it was something that we've seen before. Their wanted system and corrupt police. So another thing that was promised as well was this system where if you were wanted, like it wasn't going to be like just GTA, right, where you get a couple of stars on you and you're trying to run away from the stars. It was supposed to be a little bit more complex than that, and there was also supposed to be corrupt police, like where they would be trying to kill you essentially, or like you could fight like this sort of police crew that is taking money or dealing money under the table sort of thing. That was not in the game. Immersive police involvement changing with the area where you commit the crime was something that was also promised, not delivered. And the list goes on and on. I'm trying to like pick up some of the stuff that's like very quick, so I'm not having you guys sit here for too long. NPC's unique daily routine, again, supposed to be super innovative. Quest decisions will have relevancy in the world. Now that was something that CD Projekt Red kept pushing was going to be in the game. And a lot of the quest decisions that you make, and this is actually something that's very basic to RPG games. Like, again, the game for Mass Effect, I can make a decision in Mass Effect 1, and that decision will affect the whole storyline of Mass Effect 2. So, but in regards to this game, the quests don't have any sort of bearing on the story as much as they promised. So that's kind of ridiculous. Let's see. Incredible character customization during creation and in-game. So this is what I was talking about with Tyler. Is like, yeah, right, they had certain genitalia of the, how would you say, of the sexes, but they did not have like genuine like, I don't know, like sculptable sort of customization that hasn't been seen before. They were very basic with their customization abilities. And well, during the game, as far as I'm aware, you're not able to change your character's appearance yet again. Yet in somewhere like GTA or any other RPG game, a lot of times you're allowed to adjust your character's appearance. Um, let's see. The use of drones. And their hacking systems was another thing. They promised was going to be a lot more fluid, and it was supposed to be a lot more unique than what they had. Again, adding on to previous point, life paths were not really being. They're supposed to be non-linear, but instead they are very linear sets of gameplay. Let's see what else. I want to pick something. Oh, the changing of weather systems that would pose a threat to your survival. So apparently that was something that they were talking about. That one I'm not quite aware about, but that was something that was also promised. So you have this huge list of, and one of the other points that they added, a polished game and smooth experience. So I was skipping around. Oh, weapon customization, vehicle customization was another thing. Let's see. Oh, and then 4 different styles that clearly highlighted that you can adhere to and will make NPCs react to it. Okay. So I jumped around with all these promises, and like I said, please check out the link in the description for this article, because you guys can read a little bit more in depth the long page of stuff that they promise that is not in the game. And updates will continue on this Reddit page for this game as well as for missing features. So I'm just, in that regard, I'm just very disappointed with how CD Projekt released the game, how they hid the imperfections of the game, and how they overpromised. I think if CD Projekt Red did not make these promises and sort of made it as goals of theirs to say that we're going to try to develop, I would have had a little bit more sympathy towards them. But they didn't deliver on that. Nothing that they said they wanted to do did they ever, or that they were going to do, not wanted, but going to do, they did not deliver. And I think this poses a question for me, is how, in that I want to ask you guys as well. Recently, because of this whole thing, this has me like going down memory lane, and I'm starting to get tired of there's a lot of games being released that are unfinished games that are being finished in their development like later. Like you have to wait for the updates to, and it's not bugs, it's like you have to wait for the update for more content in the game or more stuff. So how do you guys feel about that with video games now? With us being delivered unfinished projects?
So for me, me and Justin are a little bit different. I don't know if you guys probably could tell from our last podcast about this. I'm not necessarily upset if there's like certain things missing at whenever you first get the game. So like, for example, like when GTA 5 first launched back in like 2013, 2012, it was missing multiplayer completely when it first came out. And they told us in advance, which I think is what definitely helps with like the sourness, is that they told us like, hey, GTA Online's not going to be out for like the first couple weeks, and we're going to have a few issues here and there. And like, I'm fine with there being a few things missing, like with GTA, that being missing. Like looking at this list, like I think that if you look at one thing like everything on this list for the most part, there's some things like absolutely, definitely there's a big problem with. But like some of the things like, for example, like the car customization, like if it's not out at launch, it's not as big of a deal. It's like something you could put out in a batch, second week it's out or something like that. That's not a big deal. But like some of this stuff, like what was it that I saw? The the amazing AI, like that's not something you really can patch. That's something that should be out on day one. Like it's going to ruin the experience for somebody if the AI is trash whenever they play the story mode of the game or they go through the story. I don't play this game, so I don't know what it is post game like. I don't know if you're in the same environment, but either way, it's still going to be like such a different experience main story to post game if like you finish the game and they put out a patch. Like me, it looks like what they did is they were so vague with what is going to be better about this game that they got themselves in a lot of trouble. Like one of the things that I looked at is like an immersive police involvement changing with the area where you committed the crime. Like what does that really mean? Like for some people that can mean like, so for me, like the first thing I think of is like, okay, the cops in that area, like if it's like a GTA style, like your wanted level goes away, but the cops in that area are like still like kind of like looking for you. So if you do any slight thing, you're instantly gonna get stars, So like I think like really got them in trouble on this is that there's just so much, and there's like 3 or 4 things that like no matter what should have been there on launch day. In terms of like just games in general, as long as it's not something that's like so integral to the game, like an RPG, you cannot be missing like AI stuff. Like yeah, that's got to be in the game day one. Like you can't. Like, that's not something like you could add later on. You could add like vehicle customization, more character customization options. You could add like more side quests, stuff like that. The basic stuff. This game in particular, like they just simply overpromised and generalized those promises, and I think that's what made people so upset because, like, I don't know. I'll pose this question to you, Justin. So, if somebody comes up to you and says, "This game is going to have an immersive police involvement," like, what does that mean to you? Because, like, I told you what it means to me, but what does it mean to you?
That to me definitely means like a lot more than what GTA would be, right? So like it would be for me to be this sort of immersive police involvement that changes within the area is like maybe there's cops looking for you in a certain area, but when you travel to like let's say you go from one town to the next town, you're not having those cops like looking for you. And it's similar to how would you say? I think Red Dead Redemption 2 was a game that sort of developed a scenario like that, where in certain counties or like sections of it, it's going to be you're not going to be wanted, but when you go back in that another section, your poster is going to be up there and you're going to be wanted. And I think that would have been right. It's something that has been done before and could be done before. And I think with the game, with developers like CD Projekt Red, that's why I had such a high expectation for them, because I even will go as far to say, and excuse me, that they are better than Rockstar, especially with the single player experience.
I would agree with single player experience. Yeah, because Rockstar really, except for Red Dead, I think they really focus on the story. But like GTA, it's more of, especially with 5, it became more of like the story is an afterthought. I mean, there's story in the multiplayer, but story was an afterthought. This game is literally an RPG, and so the story should be like really good. It's just me, it's just wild the amount of things that they promised is, I think, what really screwed the pooch for them, because this list is really long. Like holy cow. How are you going to be able to get all of this done, especially whenever you're already having trouble? You're having to upscale all of your graphics because of the new consoles. This is a cautionary tale of don't overpromise and don't generalize those promises, because all of these are, for the most part, they're generalized. Like meaningful day and night cycle, like what does that mean? Like the guy who did this Reddit post, he was like, you're not more stealthy at night. Like when I think of like a meaningful day and night cycle, the thing that I think of the most whenever I think of that is just Minecraft. Like, day and night is completely different in that game, and I mean that's the most basic thing that thing out there. It's like you at night, all these things spawn. During the day, they don't spawn. It's like it's just saying you're going to have a meaningful day and night cycle. Like you need to be more specific when you're talking about these things. They should have been more specific on that. Like, does this mean that at night you're going to see like more of a, I don't play the game, but like maybe there's like more criminals out on the street, people barring their doors. Obviously, like there's not as many people out. Places are closed. Like stuff like that, like bars are open and stuff. Like it's just interesting. I don't know. They just really promise way too much.
Yeah, and I agree to that factor that I wish they wouldn't have promised so much. I think if they didn't make this game to be so like epic, like, and I understand, right? Every game you gotta market and be like, oh, it's so great, but for most games, like, I haven't seen that crazy promise, right? Where, oh, this is gonna be this type of game and whatever. And I like that people are holding these companies accountable for, or starting to hold them accountable for them releasing a game that's not what they promised. Because, yeah, I know it's just like $60, right, that you're paying for the game, but developers they were starting to follow too much in line with the business individual and business side of things, which is understandable, right? You got to make money. These businesses are producing the game. They want that return back, and unfortunately, there are deadlines that they want to set. But I think that it's important for our community of individuals to have this voice and start saying, like, no, don't give us a game that is unfinished, because a lot of times, or like not what you promise, like you be transparent. And like I said, I'm very proud at the fact that everyone is starting to look at these video games and are pushing towards, give us what you said you were going to give us. Don't give us anything else. Because like they did that to like games like Battlefront 2 and the Fallout 76 was like one of the most recent games that was like that people were disappointed in, and really roasted the developers for having to put out a game that just what seemed unfinished, that just wasn't really balanced in any sort of way. And I like that, right? I hope that future companies understand and are understanding that the transparency and the time that they give their employees to make these games needs to be extended, and transparency needs to be shown, because I don't want another Cyberpunk on my hands where it's like I'm promised this crazy innovative game and I'm just getting another game. Like, if they would have marketed it like a game that's going to be really cool and just a regular RPG, I think I wouldn't be as hard or as disappointed um, in the in the video game. I would have been kind of just happy and excited to get my hands on it. But for you to promise all this, then I think that's when I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to hold you to that and make sure that this is the best game as possible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at that list. So, and now I'm thinking about, imagine if Grand Theft Auto 5 had campaigned and told us all of the stuff that's currently in the game was going to be at the game at launch, and then came out with the game as it was. Like, that's basically what Cyberpunk did. Is they promised a game that they promised something that GTA has just now gotten to, and the game's been out 7 years. You get, this has been being made for basically that long. Like, it's just wild how many things they promised and they didn't get done. I mean, some of it, like one of the things on this article, I think is very subjective. It says strong RPG elements, and I think that one, from what I've like looked at, TikTok, it's all over TikTok, it's all over Instagram, Reddit. From what I understand, people aren't necessarily upset with the RPG elements of the game. I mean, like, if you just look at what's there, they say that it's good. The problem is that some of the stuff that they promised isn't there, and that people are just kind of running with it, I think, because everything I've seen, like, people are like, oh, the RPG set of it is pretty good. It's just that there's some things missing that they told us that they would have, but what's there isn't god awful. I think if, like you said, if they had just marketed it correctly, people wouldn't be as upset. I mean, there's some broken things in it. I think the graphics would have gotten them in, graphics especially would have gotten them in a little bit of trouble. If they had just promised what they had, I don't think that they would be in as much trouble as they are. Speaking on trouble, Justin, I was on Twitter and I read something about how apparently the developers and the execs of CD Projekt Red are kind of going at it a little bit, and the developers are pushing back, saying that a lot of the issues that are in the game are caused because of the executives like pushing for the game to come out earlier than it should be. I also heard like a lot of the review copy stuff is part of the execs issue. It's like, I mean, it's really gotten ugly.
Really?
I don't know if yeah, it's like, I was there's a guy I watch on YouTube, like RG82 or something like that. He was talking about it, and I guess these developers, because everybody's kind of, common thing is everybody craps on the developers, and in a lot of cases it's not the developer's fault necessarily. It's the people behind them that are pushing them to get these things done, and they end up releasing things that aren't ready. And like, I mean, developers don't get to say when the game releases. They can only tell them, hey, we shouldn't release this game for another year. And there's a lot of things going on. I'm gonna see if I can find that again. They were saying they needed more time. The PC only review copies was because of the executives, because the developers told the executives that the console versions of the game were very unpolished. So instead of sending out copies as is and getting the feedback, they knew they were going to get feedback about the graphics, but it's still very important to send out those, because there might have been some of the issues, some of the bugs, like the wall bugs, would have been fixed. And the executives, knowing that the game was broken, did the console version and just showed the PC version. To me, that's the biggest crime of them all, is like knowing it's broken and trying to hide it. But I'm gonna look this up real quick. But what do you, if this is actually true, if these execs, if a lot of this falls on the execs, what is your feeling on that, Justin?
Well, I mean, it's like as I was stating previously, it's like I'm still sort of disappointed in that factor where, and I still believe that right, individuals still need to be. This is like an outrage I can get behind for video games and stuff like that, because this is sort of like a pushback to companies and saying, like, we will not accept a game if it's not properly finished or if it's not what you promised. Like, when it comes to the game that pops into my mind is when EA was releasing Battlefield 5, they had this just crazy developer, or not developer. So like they had this crazy like marketing scheme, and they were trying to market it in this particular way, like where it was like geared towards women, but it was like empowering. It was like this weird take that they were trying to make, and people kind of like caught on. They're like, well, like, why are you taking that angle? Feels like you're trying to take advantage and just doesn't make sense. And anyway, the game was not what they wanted, and that game failed like hard. It failed so beyond just far and just down that I don't ever hear anything about Battlefield 5. I hear a lot about Battlefield 1, but I don't hear a lot about Battlefield 5, and they haven't been notice they haven't been pushing to develop another Battlefield game anytime recently. So I think people need these to have this voice. It's another thing is when EA was working on the Battlefront 2 game, as I stated, there was a lot of stuff that they needed to fix and add, where it was just pretty much a bare, unfinished game that they added, and the game ended up being amazing afterward. But one of the things that they were doing were the microtransactions and loot boxes. That people were kind of getting tired of, because this loot box system is essentially gambling, and they don't like it. And they took that out the game. So I'm happy that people are having their voice, and I think that they need to continue to do so.
And I think like the loot box thing, like I think this Cyberpunk thing is like in its own category in itself, because like the loot box thing with Battlefront 2, like that was just, I mean, that's another case of executives just trying to make a cash cow. And like that's something that it didn't break the game itself. It was just like, why are you making me pay for all of this stuff, type of thing. Why can't I just buy it outright? Like I want this character skin. Why can't I just buy the skin? Why do I have to keep rolling this slot machine basically to get it? Like this is just like a whole different thing. This, I sent you guys this article, but this article on IGN says that developers that were working on the game like apparently confronted leadership teams over the issues and like the crunch time of the game's launch, and that they've been frustrated and angry and have been questioning management as to why they made these unrealistic deadlines. And this is like just recent stuff, because I'm sure it's hard as a developer. I'm sure it's hard to you can push back so much, but I'm sure it's really difficult to just straight up go out and question these executives, because at the end of the day, they hold your job in the palm of their hand. And so now that this launch has gotten such a bad, like it's been so bad, I think it's going to end up becoming a really good thing because this developer, CD Projekt Red, is going to end up gaining a lot more power back that these management people had taken, and going to hopefully they're going to fix Cyberpunk and they will be able to relaunch it in like a couple years or whatever, and it'll be the game that everybody was promised. But like, I mean, this article just goes into detail about how many things were brought up to these management people that just basically ignored. They didn't care.
Yeah,
We just want our money.
I've just had a lack of enthusiasm to play the game. Like, I haven't touched it since. Like, I was that disappointed where I would rather play Call of Duty and then, than hop on this brand new crazy experience because I'm just that disappointed. I don't know, Junior, what's your take on this as well? Like, what do you feel about what's happening in this video game industry?
I'm glad I pretty much stopped playing video games.
Are you like I don't know, do you feel the same way towards how people are outraged, or
Well,
are you more
obviously,
sympathetic?
it's kind of weird to not weird, but it's kind of messed up to promise something but not deliver what you promised.
Yeah. What would be a game? All right, just now because I'm just curious, but if there were to be a game, what would be? Okay, hold on. Sorry, let me word this. I'm trying to think of my brain. What would be the game that would bring you back to gaming? What would that look like?
Well, you remember last time it was supposed to be Gears of War, and it didn't. Oh, I don't think there's a game at this point.
Really?
Where was I'm just kind of curious. Was it because the game wasn't good, or was it just you've fallen out of love of gaming?
Just falling out of love because I was like, Gears of War was my favorite game, and then probably played like 20 minutes of that game, and then I pretty much stopped it. I played Warzone for a little bit, but that was just kind of that's just something you do with friends,
So, like, for Gears of War, which Gears of War did you lightly play? Was it Gears 5 or 4?
Yeah, whatever the latest one was.
Oh, 5, really?
Yeah.
Five's supposed. I was just curious because of that. I was thinking about it. I was like, because Gears 5 was like, everybody likes Gears 5. So I was curious. I was like, did you not like it?
I can't tell you if I liked it or hated it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask, because I was like, wow. Because a lot of people I know that like kind of fell out of love of just like the Gears franchise in general. Gears 5 kind of pulled them back,
I'm saying just fell out of love with gaming in general.
Mm-hmm.
F's in the chat for everyone in the comments.
We need to pay our respect to our former gaming boy.
But we will have this. I'm also going to link the article that Austin has provided, because I think it's fairly interesting reads for you guys to sort of get into. I know normally we don't link our information, but we're gonna, I think, drop that in the descriptions for that, so you guys can be educated on what's essentially happening with these video games. But with that said, we're running a little bit over time, so we're going to cut to a quick word from our sponsors, and then we're gonna get into some Christmas talk. And then let you guys go shortly. So you guys enjoy this word from our sponsor. Adam Stone, a unique and talented artist, hitting the alternative rock scene. Listen to him as he jams his way into becoming a new hit artist.
But now you will, 'cause I am bringing you down. I'll take you off your chair, left from your hair. Someday
Listen to Adam Stone singles for free on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Surrounding me. I don't know why I was chosen to live like this every day, every day, every day. I don't know why pain.
You can follow your favorite ghost, Adam Stone, on Instagram and Facebook. Link in the description. And we're back from that word from our sponsors. Again, link in the description. I mean, do I have to even say it again? But thank you to our sponsors, by the way, and a happy holidays to them as well. And with the happy holidays coming up, and Christmas shopping. Christmas shopping. Do I have to talk about Christmas shopping? Do you guys like Christmas shopping? I'll start there first.
I think I used to.
You used to like it?
Yeah.
All right, that's going to be... used to is the key word that's going to be interesting. What about you, Austin?
I actually like it more now than I used to, because now I can actually get people the gifts that I wanted, whereas before I, was not in a financial situation where I could buy what I wanted for people. I kind of like it more now.
I think I don't like Christmas shopping, okay? I never could, and I never will, I think, like it. And it's not because, getting gifts for others. I like getting gifts for others, sure, I guess. I just don't know what to get. I'm not a good gift giver whatsoever. I'm not going to even lie. I'm not good at hiding what I want to give the person either. If I bought something for my family or, something like that, I want to give them that gift right then and there. That's it. I hate the waiting. It's annoying. I have it. Here you go. The end. But also it's I don't know. I don't know how to know what people want besides asking them hey, what do you want? Cause right, isn't it supposed to be a surprise? So I find it weird asking the person, hey, what do you want for Christmas? It just feels weird to me. I'm more or less hey, I heard you like this, so here you go. But instead, I don't know. I'm just horrible. I'm horrible at gift giving. Junior, what changed for you? Because you said you used to
I think it goes along with my memory not being the same. So now it's hard to think of man, what's a good Christmas present to get them? Because I feel like I was pretty good at figuring out what to get people, but now it's just kind of I don't know anymore.
Yeah, it's too tough. It's too tough. And also, you said you started liking Christmas shopping because now you have more of the means to afford Christmas gifts.
Yeah, it's definitely nicer because I feel like I can get people the gifts that in my opinion, they deserve. Because of how it's not they've been a good person this year. It's how have they affected my life this year? And I mean, this has been a big year for my personal growth in a lot of ways. And so a lot of people have helped me on that journey. So Christmas is kind of a tool for me to get back a little bit and spend a little extra and let them all know that I really appreciate them and stuff. So it just makes me feel good.
Yeah, well,
that's how I feel. I just feel good.
Giving does feel fantastic. Giving gifts and stuff. I do have to admit, it's nice to see their faces. I remember one year I got my cousins and my family, and it was when I was working, and I was able to get all these people gifts, and to see their faces for what I got them was pretty cool. But I knew what I was gonna get them.
Yeah.
It was easier for me, and now I'm just what do you want? How do you want
Best feeling in the world definitely when you get somebody the gift that they've like really wanted all year and you get it for them and just see their face. Like for me, the greatest gift experience I've ever had was in 2015. My grandpa, my mom's dad, unfortunately passed away, and he had a tradition where every year at Christmas he would buy my mom a new pair of like tennis shoes. It's a super simple thing. Well, obviously with him being gone, that's like he was like bummed out that that wasn't going to happen. And so I decided I was going to buy her shoes. And on the little wrapping thing, I wrote that it was from me, and then I put in parentheses Papa, her dad. And it was really it was like a changing experience for me, because I was like, you don't realize how much a gift will affect somebody until you give somebody something like that, because like it was a big deal, I guess. And it's wild. Like, it just makes you feel good. I don't know. It just makes you feel really good.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It definitely does
Yeah.
make you feel good.
Junior, have you ever had a gift experience where you had a good reaction, or that you remember was your most favorite?
That I got.
Well, not that you
Or
got.
that
We
I
could probably
give?
get into that though, but I'm talking about like that you gave.
Huh. That's a tough one to think back on. I feel like last year I was pretty good. I got most of my family like a pretty good gift.
Yeah, that had them just like smiling ear to ear.
Yeah.
When I think back at gifts like that I gave that made someone smile a lot. My aunt has had this boyfriend, and I mean he's a family friend as well. And it was the year the Cubs won the World Series, and I was working at Kohl's at the time, so it was like a retail store, and I was able to get him because I knew he was like a huge fan of the Cubs for a while or whatever, and he was talking about how he wanted a nice like hoodie and like a hat or whatever. And like he didn't tell me, right? Like as in for me to get it, or I didn't ask nobody. I just remember hearing him say how he wanted something like that. And I was able to get him a World Series hat and a World Series sweater, and like to see his expression of like how he was like, "Dang man, this is one of the best gifts I got. I don't even know if I'm gonna wear it." I was like, "What?" but that was one of my most favorite experiences, giving a gift to someone and just sort of seeing their reaction. Because like I've given my family, and I love seeing their reactions too. But like him was like a very nice, unexpected reaction. So I was excited. So giving definitely it's food for the soul for sure. But also receiving is nice too. So I do want to say, what's a gift that one of your favorite all-time gifts as a kid, adult, that you've ever received? Austin, you go first.
So, the gift that like really was awesome is my parents are from my grandparents. My dad's family is from Michigan, and my mom's family is from Oklahoma. So we don't get to see my dad's parents very often. One year they came down around Christmas time, and they bought me. I had never had a gaming anything before this. They bought me a Game Boy Advance SP. I had never realized that I would really be. I watched my mom play games, but I was like, it was nothing that I had really like. Oh, I gotta do it or watch it, or gotta play. But they got me that, and they also came down that Christmas and hand delivered that, and then took me out shopping or a couple games for it, because I got the system, but they didn't know what I would want for it. And so they took me out shopping, and I got to buy games, and then this was after Christmas. And then they of course, I got to play them, and it was like really cool. It's like a cool experience. It was really awesome, and it also led me into like one of my hobbies that I have today. It was just a cool experience. Them coming, seeing us right after Christmas, and then the gift itself. It was like a combo that I feel like it was awesome that they came, and it was also awesome that they ended up leading me into one of my big hobbies in the future.
I mean, that's freaking awesome. I think I'm right along the same lines. One of my most favorite gifts that I've ever received, because I had a PlayStation 1 my whole life till I was like maybe 9, 10 years old. But until I'm trying to remember the age. Let's say 10 years old, I received an Xbox 360, my own game console that I wasn't sharing with my brother, that was updated graphics, and I was beyond ecstatic to have received that console because, it was my first. And that's what and the games I got with it, Halo 3 and Modern Warfare. And those were some of the best games. Yeah, classic games. And they sold me on those franchises for a lifetime. What about you, Junior?
I can't remember how old I was, but I got my first cell phone. I was like, hell yeah, I get to be cool now.
You was the cell phone? Do you
Yeah.
remember what cell phone it was?
Which was probably like a Disney Mobile or something, some flip phone.
A Disney Mobile. Dang. Like, if it was a Disney Mobile, how old were you?
I didn't catch anything if you just said something. Kind of cut out.
Oh, if you were a Disney Mobile, how old were you?
I was definitely young, but at that time, I was driving across EC to go to like a different school than the one that was actually in my district. So, yeah, the cell phone was pretty helpful.
Came in handy. I mean, that's cool. What's what in
But
the
if you think about it another way too, is like my aunt, she's probably like 5 years older than me, but seeing her with a cell phone and just everybody in the household having a cell phone, I'm like, oh, I want one. So to me, it was just really cool to finally get one.
I mean, that's
But I was pretty young, but
anyway. I think we're gonna be heading out. I hope you guys have a happy or had a happy, freaking happy, jolly, holly jolly. I can't speak right now, but I hope you had a good
Holidays, really.
Christmas. And have or had, depending on when this episode is released. I did forget to mention, guys. We totally forgot to mention Tyler wasn't in this episode. He was out. He had a bunch of internet issues, so he couldn't make it in the podcast episode, but that's okay. We'll see you guys in the next one. We might be taking a break for the following week after Christmas, because everyone deserves a break on Christmas, but we're hoping we'll have an episode up after that New Year's weekend. So again, hate to take another break on you guys, but listen, I'm on break as well, so I will have the ability to edit a lot more frequently, okay? But with that said, please leave those comments in the comment section below. We want to read it. We want the community to start talking. Let's start talking. And leave a like. And please subscribe or follow us on the platform that you prefer. And hit that notification bell as well. With that said, we love you. Bye.